and take off.
And welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven VC podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And today I'm thrilled to have on the show Ariyeh Ginsberg. Welcome to the show, Ariyeh.
Thank you. It's my first show, so this is very exciting, nerve-wracking, and a good thing to experience. I'm
Yeah,
really looking forward to it.
absolutely. And I love that I love that you just showed your vulnerability, in terms of your first time doing a podcast. But we've got to put ourselves out of our comfort zone, don't we? And boy, oh boy, you're in Israel, in Tel Aviv. I think you said, how far away are you from Tel Aviv? Not very far.
Well, it's not far. It's 20 minutes by car.
That's right.
We hear rockets exploding over Tel Aviv, just to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I think for a lot of people, what's daunting is that they're using these cluster rockets. So it's a lot of explosive energy at one stage. And one thing I can say about the Israelis, which is a good way to learn about life, is they're very present. So even though all these things are going on, they are still out and about and going to parks, and no one sort of shelters themselves and stops moving. They accept that's part of what they're going through, and they make the most of it. And that's, I think, in this world, a very good lesson.
Yeah, it is. It's a great way. It's a great segue into, what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to be formless. We're going to move here, there, and everywhere, but it's strategic. It's not just random. I want to say a big thank you, because given the circumstances of the world right now and just crazy it is, and there's not much we can control, really, is there? So I love that you just talked around the point of the ability to be present. And I'm very honored that you have decided still to do your very first podcast with me. So let's introduce you. Let's tell everyone a bit about you. Ariyeh Ginsberg, you're the VP Global of Strategic and Financial Investments at Tatum Goodman and Associates. We can't see all your branding at the back, but you do talk about the future, I think, on your branding you did have there. Anyway, we can talk about that later. The firm connects family offices, venture investors, and financial institutions with high potential companies, helping facilitate mergers, acquisitions, and growth partnerships that unlock long-term value. You've got a huge background because you've spanned investment, strategy, marketing, IP, and financial structuring. And from what I understand, Ariyeh, you focus on helping founders and companies scale through aligned conscious capital, I would say, and strategic relationships. Your work often sits behind the scenes, where you're building the bridges between the innovators, investors, and markets to allow companies to grow sustainably into the future. You've got a great perspective on leadership and investment, and for you, that's deeply personal, because you've navigated some significant challenges growing up, and here you are again today, as an adult, still grappling with the constant challenges that are thrown at us. But when you were going through that, at a younger age, you made a pivotal decision early in life that your circumstances would not define your future. A mindset that continues to shape how you approach resilience, opportunity, and the entrepreneurs you support today. And what a great, is that the right word? But what a great time to be having this discussion, because, again, back to your current situation.
So look, I think that when you understand yourself in life, it's a lot easier to know what you want, to know what you don't want, and to know how to bring the best out of yourself to a situation. So if you are stuck on how you believe you should be, then you limit yourself, because you're using a lot of personal energy to project something you're not. Whereas if you say to yourself, one of my favorite understandings is, like people say, who should I use as a mentor, and why can't I be like a Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Elon Musk? The truth is that it's like a mouse comparing itself to an ant. At the end of the day, a mouse is best as a mouse and an ant is best as an ant. You trying to fit into someone else's wheelhouse is a lot of energy. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can practice it, but you're not going to maximize what you have to bring to this world. So it's very important to say, well, this is what I am. I will find my space being who I am, and I will find the people that fit my wheelhouse. And actually, by being honest and vulnerable, it's the easiest way to do it. Because if you say to someone who's working with you, I don't like this, and they say, well, I do, that's a great fit, because you're then able to maximize. It's not 1 + 1 is 2. It's actually 1 + 1 is 11, because you're both bringing both minds plus a third, because there's normally disagreement where there's two
Yeah,
different opinions. But
100%.
instead of getting stuck on who's right and wrong, it's to incorporate both opinions to find where there's agreement going forward.
Totally. It's like that yin and yang, right? That's what I think about that straight away, in terms of the yin and yang. The one thing you said pre-show, we were asking how I was, and I was, giving you a bit of the lowdown as well. And you talk, and when we met quite a few weeks ago, because we did have a catch up pre-booking in the pod, we went pretty deep then. But you talked about meditation and the ability to, I guess, be present, and how important it is to be present right now, whether that's in life, whether that is as a leader, or whether it's in business. And, I had a meeting, a new business meeting today, and I was talking to the potential client today around, we get so caught up on focusing on what happened that didn't go the way we wanted it to. And then looking ahead, oh my goodness, it's not what I had planned. So we're doing a lot of this action, right? But yet we're not sitting here focusing on here, because the past is gone. We can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. Like the fact that you're here with me right now, you don't have any control of what's next. Like you might, like you said, you were saying pre-show, and I'm not laughing, but you're like,
I'm laughing
the
because
alarms
it's
might go off.
ridiculous.
You might get called in to go into a shelter, for example, because I know that's what's happening on a daily basis from other people that I've met on the pod who have told me, which is just becoming a norm. And it's like, but you can't control that. So what do you do? Do you resist it? Do you just, anyway, I'll hand it over to you, because I loved your analogy on the need to meditate and be present.
So I think what meditation, like, first of all, people get very
Wait, wait.
anxious about what is meditation. Like, am I going to land up being someone different? Am I going to be like I must be calm the whole time? Am I going to shave my head and put on an orange robe and become a Buddhist monk? There's a lot of preconceived ideas about meditation. But if you think about it, you could be staring off into the distance, thinking about something, and that's a form of meditation. You could be walking and you could say to yourself, okay, let's just be present. Let's just feel the ground. Let's just feel the air blowing against my body. Let me hear the birds chirping in the background. And all that's doing is giving you a break in time and space. So a lot of people say, well, I need a holiday. I'm burnt out. I have no more energy. Okay, so what would be a holiday in your mind? I could be sitting by the ocean. I could see the water going backwards and forwards. I can feel the sun on my skin. I can see people playing with balls on the beach. Now, I've just given myself 10 seconds of relaxation because I'm focused on something that gives me pleasure and makes me happy. So I'm not saying uh, there's a prescribed way that one needs to meditate. All I'm suggesting is that if you see thoughts that make you happy in your mind and you focus on those thoughts and you really milk them, you're going to find for yourself that you feel more relaxed, your body's more relaxed, you calm. What is the most effective way? What happens is normally when you're stressed, your mind stops thinking and you get stuck. So in order for it to be, as you've discussed, a flow, you can't, not you can't, it is best that you allow yourself, okay, that's not a good thought at this moment in time while you're
Let it
meditating,
go.
or we can deal with it later. I know that one of the problems is, and it's not really a problem, but you can see the difference on how you're operating when you're at peace with yourself, and you can see the difference of how you're operating when you're uptight and tense, because we project onto the world our own state of mind. So if I'm tense and frustrated and pressurized and I'm thinking, oh, how am I going to reach my target? And these are the goals I've set for myself, and I'm not achieving, and I'm a failure. And then you've got your parents talking to you in your mind
Yeah.
as well, and all your mentors along the way that have said, remember this and remember that. And again, going back to the example of the mouse and the ant, they gave you their perspective and they were 100% correct. Now try and find your way to deal with the same thing. And I think that's the excitement of being who we are, is because we're on a journey. It's a self-discovery, you sharing who you are with others. And the more at peace and happy you are, the better you're sharing. If you have people, like take for instance, when there's a stressful situation, if you're present, you're not thinking, well, we've got 5 days left of runway. You're thinking about, what can I do now to
Yeah.
make this the best that I can make it? You don't know what's going to happen. You're not a prophet. You can't predict what's happening in the future, but there's a good chance and a much stronger chance you're going to be successful if your attitude's right at this moment in time. And it's amazing how out of yourself, from the universe, however you believe, ideas come.
I
And you
agree.
say, didn't try that. Let me see what happens when I
Yeah,
do this. Am
100%.
I prepared to experiment and fail? Well, if you're not prepared to experiment and fail, how come you walk today after falling so many times as a kid?
So true. Do you give that, like, do you share that wisdom with the entrepreneurs and founders that you work with? Like, in terms of, because, like a startup, and obviously what you're doing, and, like we get so caught up in like what's next, and the pressure of what's next. And yet, when, coming back to the present moment, like you say, when you are truly present, and this is why I feel that this new form of leadership is really around people, presence, purpose, having a purpose, and performance. You absolutely still need performance. But when you are present, like you say, the monkey's off your back and the ideas flow. This is when you can get into that effortless, flow of, creation, innovation, and
Playing,
what is possible. Sorry?
playing.
Yeah, playing, 100%. Like, yeah, but, like, do you must get resistance, though, from quite often, like, do you get resistance from, some of the
I
founders?
do get so a founder said to me, I'm upset. We only raised $1 million. I wanted 5. Now, how am I going to pay for I wanted a salary. I wanted this. I said, hang on a moment. This is your first raise. You've got 25% more than you had before. At least you can start your project, because a whole lot has been waiting to happen subject to you getting finance. You've done all the work. So instead of beating yourself, be appreciative.
Yeah,
You've got
I
a
like that.
first step, as I think it was it Mao Zedong? No, Lao Tzu. I think he said that a journey begins with the first step. A journey of 1,000 steps
Yeah, I love
begins
that.
with the first step. So if you're not, it's about acknowledging. And funny enough, I wrote this to this person, and they said to me afterwards, thank you for your positivity. I said, it's a pleasure, but you've got to be grateful for what you've achieved. Look at what you've knocked out this week. And I think it's important at the end of the week, not what am I doing next week? What did I do this week? What did I achieve this week? Yes, I spoke to 100 people, and maybe 10 gave me a meeting. And from those 10 people, maybe 1 was prepared to close a deal. But if you're getting stuck on, I only did 1 deal and it's not good enough, then how are you going to speak to the other 100 people for next week? And it's important that one is excited about, oh, wow, I really grew this week. I've now got 2 people I spoke to this week. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, we as humans need to communicate. And sometimes it's difficult. When I was younger, I can't say I was an extrovert. I was an introvert. I spent a lot of time in reflection. And in fact, when I went into brokerage, suddenly I was confronted with speaking to people I'd never met before. I had to come out of my shell and I needed to share. And yes, you feel vulnerable because you kind of at certain stages relying on other people's feedback to feel okay with yourself. I think as you focus on meditation and saying, I am okay, and who's good for me will be in my space and who's not, thank you. I'm upset. I mean, I was dealing with a client the other day. I gave them a whole lot of information I shouldn't have. Normally, I'm quite careful, but it was a mix up with another associate that had an agreement, and I spoke to this potential client. I gave them who I wanted to introduce to them, and suddenly the person disappeared. And my associate said, you should contact all the people, and you should." I said, "Look, I don't want to deal with this person. I don't want their referrals either. I don't want anything to do in that space. And I should say thank you because I dodged a bullet, because I could have spent hours, and that kind of personality could have done even more damage
Yeah.
further down the line. So why get upset when something bad happens? Rather look at it as that's a gift. It's
Yeah.
something that's come to you at an earlier stage than further down the line, and suddenly you're in court and you're dealing with someone who is different in value to what you used to. And why do you want to work with that kind of human?
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to get my head around rejection and be accepting of rejection because, like as we evolve and, and rejection, I really do think it is a gift these days because it's, call it the universe. Like you said, I call it the universe. It's like, no, that's not right for you. And yet we get so caught up on when we get all these no's or we get these rejections, like, oh my God, I'm not good enough, my self-worth. And yet at the end of the day, and, I was saying to someone today, it's almost like the test. It's the test of, well, what are you going to do about this rejection? Are you going to go into woe me, be a victim, or are you going to be, and this happens in life, in leadership, and also in business when you really are tested to either just kind of, I guess, succumb to that rejection or actually go, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to, I guess, pivot on? What do I need to adapt? Like, or no, I actually feel really like there's nothing I would change right now. But I think it gives you, which was going to take me to be around self-awareness, because I think as leaders, self-awareness is so important as founders as well, because if we don't have that self-awareness of ourselves and of others around us, that can also hinder growth and scalability of a business.
Sorry to interject, but one of the things that I think is important is creating a environment for safe communication. So in other words, one of the things that I used to do with people I worked with was say, if I have a problem, do you want me to take you aside to discuss the problem? Do you want me to ask you how you would do it differently? So in other words, what I'm trying to do is create a platform for us to interact. So if you're wrong, can I just say you're wrong and these are the reasons why you're wrong with what you're doing? Or to say, is there a better way for us to do this? Do you want me to scream at you because that's the only way you are going to perform? What do you need for me to help you to be your best? And I know it's a sense of caution in most people's minds, but can I personally take criticism from someone else about the way I'm dealing with something?
Yeah.
And am I taking it personally that this is me forever? No. That's why presence is such a powerful place. That was me back then. Would I deal with the situation in the same way? No. I've grown from it. I understand better. So as it was a family member, we went somewhere and I wrote a nasty email about how terrible, because we were hiring a place in Disney World, and how the netting was wrong, and how can they provide this kind of service and this is not correct. And the person said to me, if you did something wrong, would you like someone to deal with it the way you did? And I thought about it and I said, they're right. If someone's done something wrong, speak to them like you would like someone to speak to you.
Yeah, but we all learn from those things, don't we? We all learn from, like, what is it, doing to others how you be, how you expect to be treated, but like, there's that whole, like,
Well, what happens if someone's a very angry person? Then they don't know how to treat you better because they haven't had that experience in their own lives. So you can only share, and that's part of self-growth is, do I want to shout at myself every time I don't do something right? Or do I want to say, okay, you've learned, let's see if we can do better. And you're going to find that the way you talk to yourself is the way you're going to talk to the people who work with you.
yeah,
And I say work with you in a way, whether they above you, next to you, or below you. Everyone's important. It's one of the things I learned in social work, that in group dynamics, you can have the clown who doesn't do anything for the group except make them laugh. But if you have that clown bringing up the morale and making people feel happy to be in that space, that's an important facet. They might not be productive in any other area, but their morale for the team gets everyone to give their best. You don't always, if you stuck on productivity is, I need you to phone 1,000 people a week or 80,000 people a week, and you're not achieving that, but everyone else loves who you are and what you're doing, and you're not that expensive to the business, it's not, one shouldn't get stuck in that. And
no,
I remember once I said to someone, I think you'd be better at doing something else. And someone said, how can you say that to them? I said, because the truth of the matter is, I think they would be better at doing something else. They're not great at this position. And all they're doing is fighting with themselves. I don't want to get frustrated with them. I want them to do well in life. So if you can get, it's one of the things I know we discussed previously, the one course I went on, Tony Robbins, and he made a statement which is stuck in my mind. If you cannot grow in an organization, you get bored. And if you get bored, you're not going to hang around there. So people want to develop all the time inside themselves. They did an experiment in South Africa where they had a guy digging a hole and filling it. And he was earning, I don't remember the amount per month, and eventually he quit his job. And what they got from that is doing the same thing over and over without feeling a sense of accomplishment, because you're digging your hole, then you're filling it up. You're in the same place you were before. So you need to feel that you're achieving, that you're evolving, that you're
I was about
growing
to say
forward.
evolving. Yeah. Maria, tell me a little bit about. I'm going to throw 3 words at you, and I'm going to let you respond: innovation, abundance, and purpose. And then I'm going to put
Okay.
profit there, because for so long, businesses and also leaders, we've always just put profit, like as. Okay, I'll let you go. We'll
We
email and
can continue at another stage, or we can start again, but
no,
I
we'll
have to go
continue.
to the bomb
We'll
shelter.
continue at another stage. But I'm sending you so much love. Yeah, we will
Thank you.
continue. We'll do a part 2. So we'll talk soon.
Okay, superb. Sorry, B. I
No,
appreciate it.
sorry. Thank you.
Take care. Be
Okay.
well. Bye.
Bye. So I will come back to part 2 with Ariyeh, but it is honestly the world we're in at the moment and the craziness of it. And I think this is why it's so important that, for me, this podcast and the ability to talk to all these amazing people around the world, we need to really be bringing power for good, not power for bad. And so I am on this mission to reshape life, leadership, and business from the inside out because, Ariyeh, what a kind soul. And it's the first time he's coming on a podcast with me, and here he is. He's had to go to a shelter. So we will come back for part 2. But yeah, I think we just got to remind ourselves on moments like these that all we can control, and including myself, is the ability to be present. And when we are able to be present, nothing else truly matters besides being in this very moment at this very time, because we have no control over anything else. So on that note, I am going to say, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't even know what to say right now. I'm going to leave it at that. But besides just reminding everyone that we do really need to be kind to ourselves and look after one another and be present. Talk soon.